Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 40 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. After this episode, we are officially 2/3 of the way to our goal of 60 movies in 60 days. But before we talk about today's movie, we must talk about today's friend. Well, actually, every day's friend, and that's, of course, Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics, with their various and myriad stores in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. You can visit any one of those and find something that you will enjoy. Or if you don't live in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, you can also go online to shop.thirdeyecomics.com and find anything you could ever dream of in the world of comics, graphic novels, gaming, music, movies, and more. So Third Eye Comics, shop.thirdeyecomics.com. Have some fun, buy yourself something, and if you do buy something, tell them that you're supporting them because they are supporting me. I got it right in this episode. How about that? Today's movie is B&B Merry. So that's a B&B like a bed and breakfast, and B Merry as in be merry at Christmas, I presume. Another movie, another snowy city, my notes start. We see a magazine cover. We see some magazine covers hanging on the wall, which tell us our main character, Tracey, is into travel. We catch her watching a travel video she made on her laptop. She's really into her own video. She has a catchphrase at the end: you can travel more if you travel wise. And that is a play on her last name being Wise. So she's saying, if you travel, you can travel more if you travel wise, like Tracey Wise, like her, if you travel like her. So let's just set the table a little bit to make it easier for you to follow. Tracey Wise is a travel blogger. She is very well known within this world of this movie. She's very popular. She likes to go to places and make videos about them. I guess that's all you need to know. She gets a phone call from her boyfriend, Mark. He's soon to be on his way back from Paris on some sort of business trip. We then meet our other main character, Graham. We watch him watching the same video from earlier that Tracey must have posted. He's really enjoying it. He takes it inside to show his mom and his aunt, or as I put in my notes, his mom and his mom's sister. There's an easier way to write that, Joe. Anyway, they run a bed and breakfast, and he thinks that they should try to get Tracey to come to Vermont to see their B&B. His mom doesn't understand how this might help. He has to explicitly explain how publicity might help them. Then the movie has the most ham-fisted way of showing us that the two women are sisters. Why don't you take a listen?
Parkview Hotel's been open and we have 0 Christmas guests.
Hello? Please, Barb. You were born in this house just like me. Or did you forget we're sisters?
All I'm saying is if just a small...
Or did you forget we were sisters? That's so corny. Eventually they agree that it might help. It might help. They watch another video which features Tracey's boyfriend. They get an idea. Why don't they invite Tracey and her boyfriend for a romantic holiday? Man, I'm doing really good with words right now. Her and her boyfriend for a romantic holiday trip. Cut to Tracey receiving the invitation. She's intrigued. Cut to her telling her buddy Annie about this invite. Annie isn't very enthused. Turns out she's not a big fan of Mark. She mentions that they've been dating for a year, but he's only been around for a few months between all the travel he does for his job. She thinks Tracey is more in love with the idea of Mark instead of Mark himself. Tracey is very sad at this possibility, so Annie backs off a bit and says maybe Mark is really the right guy for her. This makes Tracey a bit happier. We jump over to Graham doing some improvements around the bed and breakfast because he knows that, Tracey's coming. Now back to Tracey. She gets a phone call from a stranger. It's a British guy who runs the magazine we saw all over Tracey's wall at home. It's called Lux Voyage. And Tracey is a huge fan. Anyway, this British guy who runs this magazine wants to offer Tracey a chance at auditioning to write for the magazine. He's going to send her a list of locations, and Tracey should pick one to write about. Then they'll send her to that location. She gets the email, and wouldn't you know, one of the locations is a hotel in the same town as the bed and breakfast. This is perfect. She can visit one and write about the other. Cut to Tracey arriving in Vermont. She stops by a diner called Max's for a milkshake. She gets to talking about why she's in town with the woman who works there. I don't know if she's a waitress or if she's a hostess or if she owns the place, because you never know with these movies. She could easily own the place. Anyway, she hopes Tracey isn't there to stay at the snooty Parkview Hotel that just opened. That's where Lux Voyage is sending her, though. Uh-oh. Instead, she should stay over at the cute bed and breakfast that we saw earlier, the one that Graham helps run. Who should walk in at that very moment but Graham himself? Tracey is startled and accidentally spills milkshake on him. Once she officially meets Graham, as opposed to just chatting online, the waitress is all, "Whew, I am so glad that you're not staying at that snooty hotel," and Tracey is all, But then the conversation moves on. Graham offers to give Tracey a ride to the bed and breakfast. Tracey seems unsure. Graham quickly calls his mom to let them know that she's run into Tracey. And this is when you find out why there's some hesitancy on Tracey's part. Turns out she's not scheduled to go to the bed and breakfast yet. She's only come in town a few days early to go to the hotel and to write about that. But now that she's run into Graham from the bed and breakfast, they think she's just early. And so they're going to let her stay there sooner. And she doesn't clarify any of this. You'd think she'd go, "I'm sorry, I have a reservation at a completely different establishment as part of my job. You know, the videos from which you know me. So I'm going to stay there first, and then I'll come to you at the previously agreed upon time." Nope, none of that happens. Instead, the bed and breakfast gets ready a bit sooner to host her. Once they arrive, Tracey checks in with her boyfriend to see how things are going on his end. She finds out Mark actually isn't coming to Vermont after all. He needs to go back to Paris. She's so disappointed. Mark understands that she's sad and basically says he feels like they're just not a good match at this time, and their lives don't work together. He thinks they should call it off. Tracey is very sad. Eventually, she makes her way inside, and the sisters who run the joint are all over her because she's a big celebrity to them. They talk about how Graham is a huge fan of hers, and they've come to watch her videos too. They think her and her boyfriend Mark are such a cute couple. Tracey makes a face. She excuses herself to go upstairs and relax. When she gets upstairs, she takes in some family photos that are hanging on the wall. Graham finds her and explains that he lives there too. He shows her to her room. Once there, she starts to tell Graham that Mark won't be coming, but then in comes Graham's mom and aunt, and they go on and on about romantic things that Tracey can do while in town, and also bad-mouthing the Parkview Hotel and how it just opened the year before and has hurt their business severely. Graham picks up that Tracey is a bit overwhelmed and guides the sisters out of her room. Cut to Tracey telling Annie about, Annie, remember her friend from earlier in the movie, telling Annie about Mark breaking up with her. Annie is pissed with old Mark, who she never liked anyway. The next morning, Tracey comes down and asks for activities to do in the town. They offer to have her join them in baking cookies. She's in. Cut to all four of them, including Graham, baking cookies and decorating the cookies and chatting, having a grand old time. Afterward, Graham takes Tracey over to the Christmas fair to show her around. Tracey buys a onesie for Annie's new baby. Tracey's having so much fun. We find out there used to be a town Christmas dance. They stopped having it a few years back after the hall in which it took place burned down and the town focused its money on helping the Parkview Hotel open. That hall that burned down, that's where Graham's parents met. Tracey feels very sorry for him. They head back to the inn, and immediately the sisters are all over Graham about how things went with Tracey down in the town. They also try to push him to see if he's interested in Tracey romantically. Now, they think she has a boyfriend. So it's weird that they're like, what do you think of her? Do you think of her a certain way? Do you like her? Do you like her? Mark points out that she has a boyfriend, and he's never going to be that guy that gets in between a couple. But then one of the sisters is just randomly perusing Mark's social media and sees a photo of him in Paris with another woman, and they think he's cheating on Tracey. The next day, the trio discuss how to handle it. How do they break the news to Tracey that they saw a photo of her boyfriend with another woman in Paris? Tracey walks in and asks what they're talking about. They show her the photo. She explains how Mark and her broke up as soon as she arrived. She's sorry for hiding it, but they understand. Cut to Tracey helping Mark decorate the front porch. He admits knowing she studied law and gets embarrassed because he's such a big fan of hers, and gets embarrassed when this means that he's read her blog. She thinks it's funny, and they chat about her life, how she moved away from law to become a travel blog writer, creator, whatever you want to say. She says things changed for her when she went on a trip during law school. She started a blog to update her loved ones on her trip, and it became her passion. She asks how he got into helping out at the end. He talks about how his dad wanted him to follow in his footsteps at working at the end, but then his dad passed away. He mentions the bed and breakfast is struggling, and she starts trying to cheer him up and root him on, like, oh, I'm sure you guys will be fine. I'm sure you guys can pull through. She thinks of ways that the bed and breakfast can differentiate itself from the new hotel that's opened, and says, why don't you guys resurrect the old town Christmas dance? Graham thinks that's a great idea, but it's only a week until Christmas. And she goes, oh, no, sorry, I meant for next year. And he says, yeah, that's fine and all, but we might not be here next year. She says, well, you know what? If you want to do it this year, we can try to do it this year. I'm happy to help if you want my help. And he says, yeah, let's do it. He takes her to a potential place for the dance. It's a cobblestone type of place on the property. It's almost like a court on the property. I don't know what you would call it. I don't know what you would put there. Maybe a tea party. But anyway, that's where they might have the dance. They start pulling out possible decorations for the dance and come across a map of the world that Graham used to keep track of places that he wanted to visit. Turns out he's into travel too. They also find a camera he used to use. Both of these things were before he had to help out with the inn. They accidentally get close and almost kiss when Annie, remember Tracey's friend, calls. They chat about Mark and his new girlfriend. She also mentions helping to throw the dance. Annie's like, she tries to make this into some big thing. Oh, you're helping? As if there's more to it than just helping. And the thing is, there's nothing that Annie knows, because she doesn't know that they almost had a kiss. There's nothing Annie knows to imply that this is anything more than simply helping out some group of people that need help. And so it was like the movie thought she knew things that she would not know. Cut to Graham and Tracey making plans at the diner. Tracey comes up with a plan to host a decorating party to get people from the town who want to help to the bed and breakfast to help decorate the town hall dance, not the town hall, the town dance place. The waitress that works there stops by and is all, so what else are you going to inspire Tracey, since you've already inspired the resurrection of this dance? And you know, the implication here is that maybe she's inspiring Graham to do more things like that. And Tracey plays it off like it's no big deal. Cut to Graham and Tracey getting back to the inn for dinner. The sisters ask what it's like to travel all the time. Does it get lonely? She says she doesn't mind. She wouldn't mind having a partner someday, and she shoots a look at Graham. Tracey tells him about her possible job opportunity with Lux Voyage magazine, but not about having to cover the Parkview Hotel, which is pretty stupid. Cut to the decorating party. We get a decorating montage. We cut to Tracey and Graham taking a break from decorating. She asks him about why he stopped taking photos. He explains he got out of it when his dad passed, and he decided he needed to take care of his mom and the inn. He also explains he got rid of his old place and moved into the Parkview just to save money to help put more money into the bed and breakfast. Annie checks in with old Tracey. She says she saw a photo online from the travel blog of Graham, and maybe that's why she's hanging around a bit longer. Tracey says no, but then thinks again. She's not sure, but does it matter? He lives here, and she lives everywhere. Annie points out that she was dating a guy for a year that was almost never home, so why would that stop her? She asks Tracey to make sure she tells him how she feels before she leaves. Cut to the sisters, Graham, and Tracey decorating the inn's Christmas tree. They actually got Tracey a special ornament in the shape of a passport and hang that on the tree for her as well. Later that night, Graham's mom wants to talk to him. She basically tells him he needs to start living his own life again. He puts up a fight, but seems accepting of his fate. As he goes to bed, he almost knocks on Tracey's door, but rethinks it. The next morning, Tracey helps Graham's mom make marshmallows for a bonfire party they're going to throw. They also talk about Graham. We find out his last relationship didn't end well. His mom says it's nice to see him smile again. Tracey smiles hearing this. So the bonfire party is also a decorating party, I guess. So I don't know what the other decorating party was for. Tracey talks to the waitress from the diner, and she tells Tracey that since she's come to town, it's like Graham has woken up. He's come alive. Tracey smiles upon hearing this. That night, the magazine boss calls Tracey and gives her a hard time about posting so much about a competitor to the Parkview Hotel when she's there to write about the Parkview. She puts up a fight and pushes back, noting she's not even on their payroll yet. She can write what she wants to write. But then again, she did agree to go there to write about the park view, and she has yet to step a single fucking foot inside that hotel. Graham walks by and hears part of the conversation and thinks something nefarious is going on. She ends her call and notices him nearby. She explains what's going on, and you know how it goes. He thinks, oh no, you were lying about this. You withheld that you were going to do something for the park view, and the park view is trying to put us out of business. Anyway, she gets overwhelmed and says she's going to leave. Cut to her checking in at the park view. She immediately doesn't like it. It's too normal and aseptic. Cut to Graham talking to his mom and aunt about what happened. They think he may have overreacted. His mom thinks that Graham is just afraid of getting hurt again. And I don't know that that's anything to do with why he got mad. But sure, why not, movie? She pushes Graham again to leave and follow his dreams. He says he wishes it was that simple. Back to Tracey in the hotel. She asks if there are any events in the hotel to maybe get to meet other guests. There are not. She is very sad in the hotel. She calls Annie and leaves a message saying she might be cutting her trip short, but then she starts typing up her thoughts about the park view and an idea hits her. Cut to the new version of the big town dance. Everyone is having a great time. Tracey decides to go for some reason. Cut to Graham's mom and aunt finding Tracey's review of the park view. They start to read it, but it seems too positive, so they stop. Graham notices and decides to read it. He also only reads the first few paragraphs and has had enough. Tracey's outside of the party, hesitant to go inside, but then the British magazine boss calls and is livid with Tracey's review. He wanted a favorable review of the Parkview Hotel because that's a property that his company has invested millions in. We find out that both the magazine and the hotel chain are owned by the same company. The British boss becomes so jerky that she basically hangs up on him. Graham heard part of this conversation and she apologizes for, I believe it was like, sorry, I'm not normally so disrespectful. And he's like, no, it's okay. I think I was fine. She also apologizes for the misunderstanding from before. He explains that he has finished reading her review. And I'm like, when did he finish it? Because we saw him start it and then walk away. So what made him go back to it? Apparently, in her review, she starts out talking about the park view, how it's clean and organized and everyone's very professional, things like that. But then it gets to the part where there's no heart, though. There's no emotion. There's no specialness to it. It's not like, for example, the bed and breakfast. And then she starts talking about how everybody there is so warm and lovely. And, there's such a community included in that and its connection to the town. So the first few paragraphs are positive about the park view. And both the Graham's mom and aunt read those paragraphs, and then Graham read those paragraphs, and then both the groups stopped reading after those paragraphs and didn't read the rest. But now he's showing up mere minutes later to say, I've read the rest of your review. What are you talking about? When did you do that? He thanks her for the review and then thanks her for not leaving. He was afraid she'd gone back to New York City. They make pleasant and he asks her to dance. As they dance, Graham mentions he's planning to leave town. He'd like to join her on her adventures. She is so happy to hear this. She says, I can use a professional photographer after all. He's in. They talk and talk and talk and eventually kiss, and then everyone at the party claps. It's like everyone was just watching the two main characters in the world and was like, oh my God, are they getting ready to? Oh my gosh, they just kissed. Everybody, let's clap for the kissing. What made this scene stand out even more than usual is the fact that it's not like they were at an event where they were on in a spotlight of some sort. They were just two guests at a party. And somehow when they kissed, everyone noticed. Anyway, that's the end of the movie. That's the end of B&B Merry. This was fine. MVP of the movie, I'm going to go with, let's go with Graham. He was cool, I guess. He was all right. Yeah. I don't know. He was fine. You can watch this if you want. If you have 60 days and you need a movie for each day, you could do much worse than watch B&B Merry. If you don't have to watch 60 movies within 60 days, I'd say you can skip it and watch something else. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. That's all for today. Let's check in with the next movie next time, and until then, take care.